Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Be sure to check out my new and improved website, rockisgeorge.com, where you can find all our social media and streaming platforms, as well as podcast episodes, knac.com exclusives, album and show reviews, and much, much more. My guest for episode 222 is vocalist MAISIE Manterfield of AIR DRAWN DAGGER. AIR DRAWN DAGGER is set to release their first full studio album on April 4th, entitled A Guide for Apparitions, through Long Branch Records. And here's MAISIE to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about AIR DRAWN DAGGER, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I would go maybe chaotic, quite emotional, and very ragey.
I'd agree with that. How did AIR DRAWN DAGGER originally form?
So I was looking to join a band, and I reached out to Lewis over Facebook because I thought he was part of a band called Rancor at the time. And he got back to me and he was like, I do not know who Rancor is, but I am trying to do music. So it was kind of just a complete accident. And then from there, we just never stopped making music.
I was reading that some of your earlier songs you wrote in the back of a cake shop. I'm assuming that's where you worked.
Yeah, so I used to have a little vegan cake shop in Sheffield. So after hours, we just pull the shutters down and get to writing.
Well, AIR DRAWN DAGGER is getting ready to release their first proper studio album, A Guide for Apparitions. It comes out on April 4th through Long Branch Records. Was this album a long time coming for you?
Yeah, we've always wanted to do an album, but we've always held off until the time has been right. So we've kind of wanted people to want an album before we've made an album. And then we were out the EP. That was the last sort of full release that we did. And it felt really different releasing that. So we felt like now was the time to do the album. And I think now that we're really in the thick of it, we're like, this was definitely the right time to do a debut album.
Long Branch Records describes the album as an exploration of the mythical and the supernatural. Maybe you could expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, so it's a whole concept. So all of the lyrics on the album, as well as the videos that we're bringing out with the album, all of the artwork, everything falls within this one concept of kind of a crossing of realms, where there's all these different characters. There's heroes and villains kind of thing. And yeah, we write a lot about sort of witches and evil swamp monsters and that kind of thing.
So it's kind of taking fantasy to another level.
Yeah, in the form of an emo album.
Now, I'm assuming you're the main lyricist, so obviously you've read a lot and watched a lot when it comes to fantasy and movies such of this genre.
Yeah, I'm really into kind of witchy things and that sort of thing. It's kind of Stranger Things-esque, but I was really into Lord of the Rings as a kid. I was a really weird 8-year-old who just thought she was going to grow up and be like Aragorn. So yeah, definitely kind of inspired by my weird childhood hobbies.
Well, let's talk about some of the songs that you've released ahead of the album. Why don't you tell me what inspired Sanctifound?
So Sanctifound was, because it was going to be a concept album from the start, Sanctifound was very much kind of a setup for the whole concept. So I just really wanted something that was going to be, this is what the story's about. It was always going to be an opening track sort of thing. So it really just sets the scene of what is going on, and just kind of welcoming people to this world that we've created.
So when it came to releasing the singles, I noticed that if you're saying Sanctifound is the kind of the beginning of the story, Castle is the middle of the story. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we've tried to kind of, the track listings, they had to work sonically, and we wanted to make them as
kind of in line with the storyline as possible. Obviously, sonically always came first for us, but yeah, it was important to try and get that as like a continuation as well.
So heading into the third single that you have out is Apparitions, the album's, well, it's almost the title track, so to speak. So is this sort of like the meat and the potatoes, or the, you know, climactic ending of the story?
So the ending is yeah, we have it's not going to be the ending track. The ending track is very much sort of the end of the story as well. So that's yet to be released. But yeah, Apparitions is more of a world builder. So it takes you a little bit more in depth, introduces you to a few more characters. And we also just wanted to drop a few Easter eggs in the video as to how it's all going to tie in. So it will make a lot more sense when all the videos are out.
I was actually going to ask about the beginning of the music video, and I'm like, this has to be an Easter egg, because I don't understand it. You guys are watching an old TV. There's clips on there. Is that, and as you said, that'll be revealed in future videos on what that's all about?
Yeah, there's a lot to piece together. We kind of wanted people to be able to watch all of the videos like a few times over and get completely different things out of it each time. And I think there's going to be some people that pick up on certain things first time round, and like especially getting sort of a lot of newer fans at the moment as well. A lot of people are going to be like, what is this? But I'm sure some people who have been there for a while has already picked up on what's going on.
Also appearing on Apparitions is Tobi Duncan of Trash Boat. How did you get him involved in the song?
So our manager, Aaron McKenzie, already knew Tobi. So we wrote Apparitions, and we knew there was kind of something missing from that track. I kept trying to write bridges for it, and nothing was really sticking. And we did want to have a feature on the album, and Tobi was really up there with someone that we really wanted. And when we wrote Apparitions and we were kind of missing this space, we immediately said Tobi's the one for this. So with him agreeing to do it, we were just like, just divine timing.
A Guide for Apparitions was produced by Neil Kennedy, who's worked with Creeper and Boston Manor in the past. What did he bring to the table as far as putting this album together?
Yeah, so we did the EP with Neil as well. So we worked with him. We know that we work with him really well. So it was kind of a no-brainer to do album one with him as well. Someone that we trust and knows how we work, and someone that we enjoy working with as well. So we always knew that we wanted to go back to Neil to do album one. He is really great at kind of stacking vocals and working out all the kind of like harmonies and stuff like that. So yeah, he's really good at that. And like the little whistles and bells that you kind of need someone outside of the thick of it to be able to put on. He's really great at that. But yeah, we just love working with Neil.
You mentioned earlier being into witchy things, and the story kind of has subject matter relating to such. Are you yourself a practicing witch? I've actually interviewed a band whose frontman was a practicing witch.
Yeah, a little bit. I dabble. I do bits and pieces when I find the time. I definitely could be more into it. I really admire people who kind of go fully into it. But yeah, I find the whole thing really interesting. I just think there's a lot of great history as well involved in it.
I live in Massachusetts, and obviously we have Salem, and the Salem witch trials are known around the world and whatnot. What do you think is the biggest misconception about witches?
I don't know if it's a misconception. I feel like a lot of people are kind of aware of the fact now that it's kind of an anti-feminist movement to kind of burn the witches, just kind of getting rid of women who were powerful in some way or knew too much. You know, it was kind of an oppressive movement.
Okay. You signed with Long Branch Records for this release. How did you end up making the deal?
We were looking for a really long time for the right label for the album. And when Long Branch came along and we sat down and had a chat with them, we knew straight away that they were the right fit. And thankfully, they wanted us as well, which was great. And they've been amazing to work with. They really they work so hard. And it's really great to have that in a team who is able to do the things that we're not able to do. Because that's something that we've always wanted from a label and from a team overall, is not necessarily to do things that we were already doing. Like, we're happy to do, like, we're very kind of like DIY, and we enjoy still doing as much stuff ourselves as possible. We just wanted somebody to come in who was able to do the things that we weren't able to do.
Had you discussed a vinyl format of the album? I noticed there's only going to be digital and CD at this time.
Yeah, at the moment, we would love to bring out vinyl, but it's just really expensive. So everyone buy the CD, and then maybe we'll get vinyl.
You have a big album release show coming up on April 5th in Sheffield, England. Are you going to be playing the album in its entirety?
I don't know about in its entirety. We do want to be able to do some of the older tracks that people already know, because the album's only going to have been out for a day by that point. But yeah, the majority of the set will be album tracks. And we're really lucky that we're playing at Corporation in Sheffield. We all grew up going to shows there, going to club nights there. And we've played Corporation before in the small room, but the main room in Corporation has been like a bucket list place for all three of us to play. So it's going to be quite it's going to be a special one for us.
So all roads lead to the Corporation then?
Yeah.
There's a theatrical aspect to your show. Do you think that's important as an artist? Because there's certainly plenty of bands that just perform their music.
Yeah, for us it really is. We love all different creative aspects of what we do, even down to how we market different releases. So doing like a theatrical show is like a no-brainer to us. It's always really important that we're not just going out there and playing songs. I think that comes from being really bad at doing that back in the day when we first started. We were like, we've got to give people something else. So now we have just kind of doubled down on that, and we really enjoy it. We really enjoy kind of writing the show and kind of pushing the boundaries. We always kind of do this thing where we go, if we had absolutely endless budget, what would the show look like? And then how do we do that with £50?
You're also going to be playing the Radar Festival in Manchester. Do you prefer the intimate club gigs over the festivals, or the festivals over the club gigs?
They're completely different beasts. I enjoy both. I don't really have a preference necessarily. I think some days I would rather play one rather than the other, just depending on where my mindset is that day. But yeah, I love the level that we're at currently, that we do get to do both. We're not necessarily kind of having to do like either or. We get to, like, one week we could be playing a tiny venue, and the next we're playing somewhere massive, sold out. And I love kind of the mental like flip-flop of that as well.
Do you enjoy the opportunity at these festivals to kind of rub elbows with your rock heroes?
Yes, yeah, I really like that. And I really love being able to play to people that we wouldn't necessarily normally get to play with as well. Like, it's such a mixed crowd. And when you play in a festival that you haven't played before, we played Rebellion last year, and we've never played Radar before, and you don't really know how you're going to be received. And I think there's such like an anticipation to that that's just really exciting. It almost feels like your first show all over again, because you could be playing to a room full of people that don't really know who you are. And yeah, it's fun to be able, you meet so many people when you play a festival, whether it's kind of artists or fans, or even just people who have really interesting jobs within the industry as well.
Are you planning on adding more than these 2 dates? I couldn't find any more.
Yes, we have some more things coming up that we will be announcing really, really soon. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty jam-packed year by the time we're done announcing. But yeah, they're coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Are your plans just to stay kind of in the United Kingdom and Europe area, or do you have plans to kind of come out of there?
Yeah, we played the States a few years back, but we have noticed online a lot more kind of traction in the States now. So we're definitely itching to go there. We would love to play like Japan. Canada's always been on the list for us as well. So we will play anywhere, to be honest. Anywhere that'll have us, we'll go.
I came across your EPs, online songs to fight the gods too. I really enjoyed the acoustic version that came out in 2024. Very, very soft and pleasing, and kind of added a new dimension to what you guys are doing. Did you release this sort of as a something that tied the fans over before the studio album?
Yeah, we again it was kind of that element of wanting to do other creative things outside of the kind of the normal things that we would normally get up to, as well as just being able to like you say, tide people over and give people a little bit more. We did like a mixtape before that, and we did loads of different things on there where we had people do like remixes, that sort of thing. But yeah, we definitely knew that we had a bit of a gap to fill in terms of getting the debut album out and finishing releasing the EP. So but yeah, it was really fun for us to be able to do the acoustic versions.
What do you think of the term female fronted band? It seems like a ridiculous label to put on a band because we can see who's fronting the band and we can hear who's fronting the band.
Yeah, I don't love it. I think there's so many different genres, and female fronted isn't one of them. And we get the label all the time where but oh, they sound like Paramore. And yeah, like we do. I am a Paramore fan. Like I love Paramore, and I wish I sounded like Hayley Williams. But we will literally bring a song out where I will be doing screams, and people will be like, "Oh, it's Hayley Williams." I'm like, no. But yeah, I think it's such a shame that you kind of get pigeonholed as female fronted. And like back in the day, we used to be put on these female fronted nights at venues, and you would literally have the weirdest mix of music playing, which sounds great, but at the same time you've got some people turning up for a jazz show and some people turning up for a metal show, and nobody really enjoys the other bands because it's not what they're there to see, because it just doesn't, like, female fronted doesn't work as a genre.
I don't think we'll get past the "you sound like this band that came before you." I just don't see it. But I always wondered what it was like, kind of back when early bands came out. They couldn't say they sounded like somebody else, but we're way past that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like it's all been done before, right? So
Yeah.
so there's always going to be that. But yeah, it would be nice if people were a little bit more creative with the references.
Now, before I let you go, I was reading that the band's name was inspired by something in the Shakespearean tragedy Macbeth. I'm not familiar with it myself, so how did you draw that name?
Yeah, it means a sudden outburst of emotion. And we toyed with different band names for a really long time, and we always knew that we wanted like a 3-word band name. I don't know why we got stuck on that. We tend to get stuck on like certain rules, and that was the rule for naming the band a long old time ago. And Lewis was at uni at the time, and he came across this while he was studying, and he was like, I think that's the name. And we kind of played around with it for a bit, and we were like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So it just stuck.
And you sort of have a fan group that draws off of the name. Is it Church of the Dagger?
Yeah, Church of Dagger. So we've got our Patreon, and then the congregation. That's really great for us, especially with some of the theatrics that we do as well. We get to really lean into that, and we love it. And it's just, yeah, it's really nice that we have a fan base that have kind of named themselves. I think that's really nice that one day someone started calling the fan base the Church of Dagger, and it caught on so rapidly that it's a whole thing now.
music fans kind of want that inclusiveness. They kind of feel they're part of the band, and in a lot of ways they actually are a part of the band. So it's actually good that they form that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And our music videos, they're full of our fans. Like, we tend to get fans on board to do that kind of thing. We have a lot of fans who've become friends, and we have some really talented fans that we tend to lean on for helping make props or anything like that. So we're really lucky. We have such a great fan base that we've never had any sort of anything like weird in our fan base. Like, everyone seems really like the energy at the shows is incredible. So yeah, we feel really lucky.
Obviously, your band's just kind of like starting out. I mean, you've been around for a little bit, but you're just putting out your first studio album. Do you have a boring day job?
I do. I am in finance because it was a way that I could work from home. So there's times where we have tours that I end up working on. So yeah, all three of us have really, really boring day jobs, unfortunately.
Well, not a bad job to have when you're trying to get your band off the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Maisie, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new AIR Drawn Dagger album, A Guide for Apparitions, is out April 4th through Long Branch Records. Fantastic album. I wish you the best of luck with it, and I want to thank you for telling me more about it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice to chat to you.
Once again, I want to thank MAISIE Manterfield of AIR Drawn Dagger for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their debut album, A Guide for Apparitions, out on April 4th through Long Branch Records. Head over to your favorite music streaming platform, take a listen to the album. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. For all things AIR Drawn Dagger, head over to their official website, airdrawndaggerband.com. I also want to thank Rachel Rosenberg at Atom Splitter PR and Long Branch Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.